Alright, first video back in the shack, and we're going to do a bit of a family favourite. We've decided we're going to have a little bit of a family feast tonight. So normally we go away on holidays for the last few years to Greece, well, pandemic wise, before pandemic and after pandemic. But we decided we're not going to go this year. We've done the garden up, so we're going to take a year at home, travel around the country a little bit, and we'll just spend our time here. The hotel we normally went to had a bar at the pool that was open all day, and they served like Greek style food, so gyros and things like that there. So we're going to do gyros and souvlaki today is sort of the main part of this feast. So there's a bit of prep work to get done for food like this to make it taste really nice. We're going to start with the souvlaki and get a marinade done for it and get it in. Now for the gyros, we're doing chicken gyros, and I actually put them into the marinade last night. We'll talk about it whenever I bring them out, but for these here, they're only going to marinate for a few hours. I'm going to slice the pork nice and thin, so it doesn't really need to be marinated for very long. So grab a pestle and mortar. We'll start off with our dry ingredients. We're going with 4 garlic cloves. Just give them a quick smash with your knife to get the skins off them. We'll pound them up before we start going in with our dry ingredients. So once those 4 cloves are smashed up, we are going to go in with about a teaspoon of paprika, about a teaspoon of dried rosemary, and then about a tablespoon of dried oregano. Now our wet ingredients. So go in with about a 1/4 cup of olive oil and then the juice of half a lemon. So the acidity will help get into the pork and kind of get the marinade working a little bit faster. So as our marinade ready, set it off to one side for a second. Grab a glove and we'll talk about our pork. So I'm using a pork fillet. You can do it with pork loin. I think it's traditionally done with something like pork neck, maybe a little bit fattier, but the family kind of like leaner meat, so we've gone with the pork fillet. But I'm just going to tidy it up a little bit. There isn't really much cleaning to be done on it because it is such a lean meat. I'm just going to try and pull this membrane off. There is a bit of silver skin on it here, so we need to get underneath and trim that off. Anything you see that you're not particularly interested in eating, this is the time to get rid of it. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So we'll just go ahead and trim this up now. We're going to cook this on skewers, so we probably want it into nice little medallions, as thin as possible really, because the thinner they are, the more they'll tenderize down in that marinade and the more flavour we'll get into them. So I'm just going to start slicing at an angle into little bits like this. Those will go onto the skewer really nicely, and they're thin enough that they'll take up flavour fast as well. Once you get to the last little bit, you can just kind of run your knife through it to butterfly it out a little bit so it's nice and flat. And that'll take on plenty of flavour. So that's our pork. So we're doing 2 different pork and chicken. This is the pork souvlaki, chicken gyros. You can flip them around, do them the other way around. Well, I don't know if you can do souvlaki with chicken, but you can definitely do gyros with pork. We have our bowl here. I'll transfer the pork into the bowl. We'll bring our marinade back again. Get in there, scrape it all out. It's going to be enough to coat it. Doesn't need to be swimming in it, just needs to be enough to coat it. In with your hand, give everything a mix around. Try and separate the pieces out to make sure each bit they're not sticking together and not getting properly marinated. The more you can coat it, the faster the flavour will get in there. Okay, that can go into the fridge then. Marinate for, try and give it at least a couple of hours. But I'll clean down and then we'll bring out the ingredients for the flatbreads, which we're going to get ready next. Okay, so for flatbreads, these are the most basic flatbreads I know how to make. We have 500 grams of strong bread flour. I've actually put some fresh rosemary leaves in there, thyme leaves, and a pinch of salt, and that's all the dry ingredients. In here then we have just 1 packet of yeast into just under 300 mils of tepid water. So I'm using thermochem for this, about 43 to 45 degrees ideal. You can kind of see it started to froth a little bit, so the packet yeast goes in there, tiny little pinch of sugar just to kind of try to feed the yeast. Once that started to activate then, we just bring everything together in this bowl. We'll go in with about half the mixture first. And just grab a fork and slowly start to bring it together into a dough. So in the bowl, we're just looking for rough dough. We're not looking for it to turn into a nice smooth dough at this point. We'll do that on the cutting board. So once it comes together into a rough dough like this, that's whenever we can get it out onto the board and just start to bring it all together. Now, you can do it with a mixer. Traditionally I would do it with a mixer, but it's a nice day, haven't much else going on, so might as well stand out here, enjoy being outside, and just take a minute or two to get involved with the food. So after a while, it'll start to come together into its own dough. You can kind of use the dough itself to grab any little bits of flour that have nestled around the board. Okay, so that's needed. It's nice and smooth dough now. We're going to put it into rise. I've cleaned out my bowl, so I'm just going to put a drizzle of oil into it, just to stop the dough sticking to the sides of the bowl once it starts to rise. So, the first little bit of thingy, and then drop that in there. I'll throw a tea towel over that, and then that's it, ready. We'll just leave it until we're ready to cut them up and roll them out. So there's a lot of prep goes into this, but it's going to be worth it in the end. Get rid of this. Next thing then we're going to make is the tzatziki. Okay, tzatziki is another pretty simple one to make. The main basis of it is cucumber, so I'm going to go for a little over half a cucumber, and take the end off it, give it a peel. Then we need to grate it, so just normal box grater. Okay, now that is a soggy mess at the minute, so we need to try and get some of that out. So I'll put it into a jar, and we will stick a dash of vinegar into it. Not much, about tablespoons enough, and a pinch of salt. Give it a quick mix round just to mix the vinegar in, and then we'll leave that sitting for a minute or two just to try and draw some of the moisture out of it. So next up, we need garlic. Get rid of the skins, and we'll just mash that through a microplane. Greek yogurt. This is the Clandyboy Estate Greek yogurt. You can get it in the supermarkets, but nice Northern Ireland Greek yogurt. This is a 450 gram tub. We only need maybe around 300 grams or so. We don't need the whole tub. Keep the rest of that for breakfast tomorrow morning. So we have our garlic in there. I'm going to go in with another pinch of salt and a really good grinding of pepper. I like loads of pepper in my tzatziki, but do it to your own taste. So that's pretty good. To bring back our cucumber, you can maybe see just how much liquid there is in the bottom of that jug. I don't particularly want that in here. Now, you can strain it, you can put it into like a cheesecloth or a tea towel and squeeze it out. I'm not going to be that fussy this time. I'm just going to lift out the cucumber, give it a quick squeeze in my hands and dump it in. We don't need it to be perfect. As long as we get the majority of that moisture out of there and in. So you're kind of just getting that shredded pulp rather than all the moisture from it. I've kind of left behind all of this, which isn't going into the sauce. It's going to be a good thing in my eyes. That's a nice consistency of a sauce. Not too runny, not too thick. It's going to be really fresh, a little bit sharp from the vinegar in it. That's what you need to cut through the fatty meats. Okay, then just before it goes into the fridge, I'm going to stick a tiny little drizzle of olive oil over it. One last mix, and that's it, good to go. Here's our chicken. It's been marinating overnight. So the marinade was made up. It's pretty basic really, there's not a lot in it. There's coriander seeds, chili flakes, a bit of smoked paprika, there is fresh thyme leaves in it, a little bit of smashed garlic clove, and then lemon juice and oil, so it's an oil-based marinade. Smash that all up in a pestle and mortar, cut up your chicken, put it into it, job done. I put it in a Ziploc bag overnight, and I've just tipped it out into the tray here to try and get it skewered up. See when you pop that Ziploc bag, the smell that comes out of it is unreal. These are going to be good. So, with our long skewers, like I said, I'm going to keep the breast and the thigh meat separate because the thigh meat will cook a little bit longer, need it at a higher temperature, whereas the breast, I want to be able to lift that all off at once. Plus, the family prefer the breast meat. Don't know why, there's not as much flavour in it. So I'm just going to start threading on the breast meat. If I come across any, or the thigh meat, if I come across any breast meat, I'll put it to the side for now and we'll do it afterwards. And just sort of zigzag it back and forward. I'm not going to be too fussy, I'm not going to ram the skewers full. If I have to take an extra skewer, then I will. The more they're kind of smooshed on there, the longer they're going to take to cook. So as far as size wise, these haven't been cut up anywhere near as much as the pork. So these are pretty much the chicken thighs cut in half, so they're still quite big pieces. They're not overly thick, so the marinade will penetrate them quick enough, but I wanted to leave them a bit larger because the plan is to kind of have larger pieces on here that you kind of carve up. They don't necessarily, they aren't going to be little bite-sized pieces. I think that's as far as I'm going to take that one. You leave them a few inches in from the end. These are just going to sit across the KJ. So that one can go down. We'll start another skewer with the rest of this breast meat. Keep calling it breast meat, thigh meat. Alright, that's all my thigh meat. Everything else in here is breast, so I'll go into another skewer. We're still a little bit short in this one, so I'm actually going to take some off this skewer and thread it on here, because then I can kind of space it out a little bit more evenly. So that's our two thigh meat skewers done. Now we'll just get the breast one done and we can get them onto the barbecue. Okay, so KJ's fired up. I have one side left without a grate in, the other side has a grate in, it's for the pork. These ones are just going to sit, these skewers are just going to sit straight across the barbecue. So we'll get them on now, then we'll get the pork skewers made up. Okay, so while chicken's on then we can get our pork done. This has had just over 3 hours to marinate, which should be enough. We're going to cook it with the marinade on it, so it's going to have enough time to soak up a lot of that flavour, and then it'll cook onto it as well. I've cut up some peppers and onions here too, so we're going to kind of alternate this on the skewer. So start off with kind of a little bit of pork, then we'll go in with the pepper, a couple of pieces of onion, a couple of pieces of pork. So we'll just alternate them up the skewer as we go until we get to the end. Right, so we ended up with 3 decent sized skewers for the souvlaki. So we'll get that, they're going to cook on the grate, and then we'll just keep turning our chicken until it's ready. Once these are done, then we'll lift them off. They can rest while we're doing the flatbreads. They're really not going to take much time at all. Okay, the meat has come off and I put both my grills on just to do our flatbreads. So our dough has risen nicely. Flip it out onto a doughed surface, an oil or a floured surface. I don't know, I'll work it too much more. It's nice and pliable at the minute. So this should get us, it depends what size you want to make your flatbreads really, but I think go, it's kind of in half. So if I've done each of those halves into thirds maybe, I think those would probably give us decent sized flatbreads if they're rolled out. So just dough ball them like you would with pizza dough. And then it's not an overly sticky dough, so you might not need too much flour. Get your rolling pin then. Start to roll them out. So that should be thin enough. I think that's a nice size of a flatbread. It doesn't need to be anything bigger than that. Once that's done, it just goes directly onto the cooking grates over the coals. Roll out the next one. Keep an eye on that. If it starts to go bad, tell me. More into the middle. So here can go on beside it. Flip it over. Nice colour on it. It's crispy. Like, whilst I don't mind crispy flatbreads, I hate it when they're completely crunchy and you can't fold them in half, so we'll keep an eye on them. Okay. To me that there is perfect. Nice and crisp, but not gone too far over. We'll flip that one. And on with this little baby one. So these are pretty fast to do. You can kind of prepare and cook at the same time. You just need to remember to keep checking on it and not get too carried away. It's not quite ready yet. On this one. 2 more to go. It's time to eat. So that was what? It's no more than 10 minutes at the most, not even. They're so fast to do. It's a really nice dough to work with. It's not sticky, you don't need tons of flour to work with it. Your hands aren't covered in stuff. I've done different flour-based ones and oil-based ones before, but this is the one I kind of fall back on. Have decent results with it. Tongs would probably be easier than messing about with it. Oh, first black bubbles. It's going to happen. It's not too bad, we can live with that. Fire's getting hot, they're cooking quicker and quicker. Right, last one on. That's them all off. Nice little stack of flatbreads. And that is us finished. Time to get plate it up. I'll show you how we carve up the skewers and stuff and get the feast laid out, and then I'm ready to eat. I was ready to eat about an hour ago. I'm over ready. Okay, everything's served up. Flatbreads, we have our chicken gyros, our souvlaki, our tzatziki sauce to go with it. Done up some sort of garlic fries here as well, with all our fillings to go into, our wraps, and then we have a little bit of kind of nibbly food just to fill off the edge of the plate. I've had a quick nibble at this already. The flavour is unreal. It's super tasty. I haven't, however, tried this one. I love Greek food. These nice little crispy bits, best bit on it. So go, bring the family, everybody can tuck in, we'll eat away while it's still warm. If you want recipes for any of this stuff, there'll be a link in the description across to the website with the different bits and pieces on it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.